So I'm going to kind of go a little farther back. When I gave birth to my son, I could not believe how much I loved him. And I'm sure your parents do understand that. You think, oh my God, how could I love somebody so much? It was an amazing experience. And from the time he was born up until he died, everything I did for my kids. May have not been the right thing to do, but I felt it was my job to protect my kids, nurture my kids, make sure that they were going down the right path. I'm going to try to read this because I get off track. I'm so sorry. I made sure I was the best mom I could be. I think that every mother does that. I took him to educational outings. We had beautiful birthday parties, Halloween parties until he was in 7th grade. That party was huge. We had like 100 kids, and they had dance off, and there was like 40 pizzas. It was crazy. That was the year I cut it off. We coached in sports, made sure he grew up in an area that was safe. Same area that I grew up in, because I thought my childhood was so beautiful that I wanted to give my kids the same childhood. We had sleepovers where we did crafts. His childhood was beautiful, and Bodhi was an amazing son. He loved his parents, and he loved his little sister, Tatum. In fact, he used to call his little sister Crybaby. And they had a song, and he'd say, I've got to make sure I write this down. Here's my song, let's turn it up. And she would say, Crybaby, Crybaby, throughout the house, and they did this often. Then one day he said, that's really derogatory, I'm going to change it. So he changed it to Tadpole. And he told her, one day I'll let you know when you're a frog. And the day he died, my daughter looked at me and she said, I'll never know when I'm a frog. That about broke my heart. Right now she's 20, she has a little boy named Bodhi. She named him Bodhi. And it's very healing. It would have been nice for him to meet him. We kind of find little things that Bodhi does, and he's only 8 months old. It's usually, but when we see a smile, it looks like Bodhi. We're like, oh, there's Bodhi. Oh, there's Bodhi. Bodhi gave everybody nicknames. My nickname is Mama Bear. His sister's was Tadpole. He named my girlfriend Norm Dizzle. He had a Handy Dandy Andy. So if you were in his life, you definitely had a nickname. And that's something that I think everybody still calls him. They're called by their nickname to this day. I really like to talk to people. I have a lot of colorful friends, and he would spend time with them like, oh my God, Mom, you have no idea. And I'm like, yes, I know. He's like, oh, it's amazing what they've been through and how they are now. And you just cannot get over the fact that the people had so many, that their lives were so different than his. And he was just starting, he was 22 years old when he was killed. He was just starting to get life and understand. When he was 16, and I don't know if anybody knows about my case, but he was, when he was, and this has kind of been all out, so I'll tell you, we have an ongoing federal case, a case in the federal courts right now. So I can't tell you a whole bunch, but I'll tell you as much as that I've said before, I guess. And I talk a lot, probably a little too much. But when he was 16, him and his friends went out on an outing, and someone gave him opium, and they had no idea it was heroin. They thought it was a pot hash. They used it all weekend long. They used it all week, and they used it the next weekend. And I could see a change with him, but he was living with my husband and at the time. And so a year into it, he finally told me, Mom, I got something to tell you. And I said, okay. I said, tell me. He says, I've been using heroin. Well, that about killed me. I remember driving down the road, and I thought, oh my God, what heroin, where do you get that from? How would a kid get that? I've never even seen it, let alone, you hardly hear about it. We didn't grow up with heroin in our lives. We didn't grow up with, there was cocaine, maybe some crystal meth, but heroin? Are you kidding me? So from that day on, we struggled with getting him clean and sober. And he would go to treatment, and he would come out and he was great, but living in the area was terrible. The area that I thought was so safe for him. Sometimes it'd be a year, sometimes 6 months, but he hated it and he wanted to be off it. Now, it's important to know about his heroin use because they used this after he was killed. He was a heroin addict. That's not the reason why he was killed. He wasn't, trying to shoot somebody else up or anything like that. They didn't have, was it caught with a needle in his arm, doing something terrible. It was just the fact that he struggled with it. Like Maria said, they villainize your kids or anybody when they're killed. And they take the worst out of it and the worst out of what you've done when you're younger, and then they or even when you're older, and then they use that for the reason, because everybody sees that. People are kind of like, what's the saying? Sheep. They believe, they just kind of follow, you know, they said, oh God, he was a bad kid, he did heroin. Oh, right, so the next person says it, the next person says it, before you know it, everybody thinks he's a bad kid. Not the case. He was a wonderful child. The night, I'm gonna go to the day before he died. The day before he died, we moved up to Sandy, Oregon, and I just got a job. And the first job I had for like 10 years. Yeah, about 10 years. So, because I raised my kids, and so I was all excited about it. He took me to work that morning, and then I said, I'm gonna walk home, I need to walk. Well, it was a 6% downgrade in 2 miles, and I regretted it the moment I stepped on the road. And my leg and knee hurt so bad that it took me 2 hours to walk home. Finally, I got home, we had this long driveway, and I yelled, Bodhi, Bodhi, Bodhi. And he said, comes out, and I said, come down and get me. Oh my God, my knee is killing me, excuse me. He says, okay, Mom, I'm coming. He jumped out of the house door, and he ran down. I said, what are you doing? Get the car. He says, no, I'm gonna carry you up. I said, oh no, you're not carrying me up. There is no way in hell you're doing that. He picked me up, and I started screaming and kicking. I'm like, yeah, we were laughing all the way up, and he almost didn't make it. About 3 steps, he was kind of, oh my God, put me down. I said, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. He goes, Mom, I love you. I always got you. I said, okay. I said, thanks, honey, I love you too. And then that was the last time I saw him. That night, he didn't come home, and I knew something was wrong. I said, that's weird. He always comes home. And the next morning, about 10 o'clock in the morning, his girlfriend came up and she said, Bodhi's dead. They killed him. And I was just waking up, and I'm like, oh my God, what? No, you're wrong. Get out of here. What the hell are you talking about? I said, that's just wrong. Why would they kill my son? He's not, doesn't have a mean bone in his body. I mean, never, he got in 3 fights when he was younger, and that was because somebody else was picking on some little kids. He says, fight somebody your own age. Well, they were his age, or his size, or whatever, and they fought him. But other than that, he never raised a hand to me, his girlfriend, despite what they said in the news, and despite, well, that's a whole other story, but they used that against him as well. So, where am I at? Oh my goodness, sorry. So, we went straight down to the police department because I wanted answers. And there's a couple things you may not know they have kind of it seems like a protocol they do. They, of course, investigate and talk to everybody, interview everyone. And there's 2 of them sitting there, and you're by yourself, and you feel like you're being hit with questions. Oh, was he suicidal? Was he, did you do this? Was he, did he ever carry knives? You're like, he has 3 knives. What are you talking about knives? Because you really don't know what's going on. Nothing's really on the news. Just a couple, somebody's been shot and killed. So, was he suicidal? Well, no, he wasn't suicidal. Well, he did heroin. Okay. Well, aren't all heroin addicts suicidal? Okay. He wanted to be done with the heroin, not himself. I'm just done. I got up and walked out. And then I went straight to the scene. And I waited out there until they left. And everybody who came in and came out, I said, why would you kill my son? What did my son do? Why would you kill my son? One cop said, get away from my car. I said, no, I'm good. I'm standing right here. And he goes, I said, what, are you afraid to have a knife? To this point, I heard they said he had knives. He said, you might? I said, you guys might have a gun. I said, well, then you better shoot me right now, because I'm not leaving. After they decided to leave, 25 cops drove out. Out of 25 cops, 3 cops said, I'm so sorry for your loss. 3 cops. All the other ones smiled, didn't look at me, they didn't care. They didn't give a shit. So when you say that there's good cops and bad cops, there are good cops, but there are too many bad cops. And with the amount of bad cops that they have, the good cops will never stand a chance, I'm sorry, unless something's done with the system. After that, we would learn that it took 30 seconds for them to kill my son. From the time that they got there, he ran, because he was scared, because it's a fight or flight, and there is, people do that. So, if you think, oh, I would never run, you don't know until you're in that position. You would never know. I probably would run. I don't know. And now, knowing now what I know now, I probably would run. But he ran from the time they got there, the time he got shot was 30 seconds. He shot him 3 times in the back. He turned around, he shot him in his wrist, his 2 fingers off, and 5 more times in the belly. There was 2 cops. 12 bullets, 11 hit him. Then after he killed him, after they shot him, they let him lay there and die for 7 minutes without letting anybody in. We're assuming because cops do everything for a reason. They're very meticulous about what they do. They know what they need to do in these situations. So clearly they were either staging the scene, something was up, obviously. All I know is that what they did was wrong. They moved his body 20 feet after they killed him, which is a big no-no. And the reasoning being is because they wanted AMR to get to him. All bullshit. So after we sat there and watched the news that night, the news came to us, and don't ever talk to the news, regardless if there's a situation that's with your family, they fuck everything up. When I tell you fuck up, they take the words and they cut sentences out and they just do whatever they want with it. And I was pissed, and so I started calling them back, like, what the hell are you doing? Not one of them would give me a call back. They're no longer journalists. They do what they need to do just for the views. I mean, obviously, it was heartbreaking to me, something, okay, we're gonna get somewhere. You know, you're not sure what to do, but you know you wanna do something. Like Irene said, I mean, you're like, okay, what are we gonna do? We gotta change the situation, you know, change how police, excuse me, how the police are ran, you know, you have all these crazy thoughts because you think you can actually do it. I mean, but then you get into it and there's no way in hell you can do it. You have to have the community step up, you know, people like yourselves to step up because we can't do it by ourselves. There's no way in hell. I mean, everything that we try, we need people to back us up. Surge needs people to back them up. And it's knocking doors and talking to your neighbors and talking to the community, having protests. I mean, we had a protest for Bodhi and the cops decided to block off I don't know if you guys are familiar with Gresham, but 181st to 223rd, they just blocked it off. They wouldn't let anybody go through. So they knew who were we going to protest to. You know what I mean? They just decided that they were just going to cut that off. So they're very, like I said, they know what they're doing. Okay, let's see what else I'm going to tell you. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little off track. My issues with the police and the system, I guess, is first of all, there's no drug testing. I don't know if you know this or not. They don't trust drug test the police officers after they shoot, after they fire their guns or whatever. How do I say that wrong? Which is wrong. Anytime that you're in any other position, you get in a car wreck. I mean, you guys probably know this already. And you're working, you get drug tested first and foremost, and that wasn't done. And that was surprising to me. Like, why would they do that? Because then it's a liability to them. Policing the police. Yes, I mean, the police investigating police officers, what the hell is that all about? Are you kidding me? Multnomah County's investigating Gresham? They work together every day, but now all of a sudden they're gonna investigate him? That was really upsetting. There's no way in hell another police officer, especially when they work closely, is going to ever find another police officer wrong. So that needs to be changed. The DA is a joke. I'm sorry, a complete joke. We were never offered to testify. In fact, we weren't offered to even go down there. I know that Bodhi's girlfriend testified, and they sat her between both cops that killed her boyfriend. You know, this is the games that they play. So there's something that needs to be done about from the DA, and he knows that we're coming after him. I'm sorry. And then if we don't get it this time, we'll get it next time. But we have to start talking to other lawyers that we think that have some, backbone that can actually stand up for us and go after what's right and what's wrong. I mean, like she said, there hasn't been one officer that's been convicted or even tried, and that's ridiculous. Because I mean, out of all the cases, there's got to be at least one that's done wrong, right? I mean, that'd be like saying, out of all the murders in Oregon, there was nothing wrong. I mean, well, maybe not quite, but you know what I'm saying. And then that it's always in the favor. It's never in the favor of the victim. It's always in the favor of the officers. I mean, the way that they went at. You can read our grand jury report online, and I would suggest that you do that. And you can see where everything, where they've done something completely wrong. I know that recently they've been hounded about how they do the grand jury. And one of the things they do is they will stop testimony. And so when something comes up that's important, they're like, oh, okay, we're gonna take a break right now. And so when they get back, they don't go back over what was just said. And so then nothing can be said about it. So they've done that like 3 times in our grand jury. I mean, you can see it, and other people can see this stuff. Why is it that this happens all the time and they're acting like they can't see it? What's wrong? I don't understand that either. Why? Clearly there's something wrong, and that they see it, so what's going on? It's always about the good old buddy, good old boys, as far as I see it. And of course, the hiring training. The hiring is, they need to step it up a notch. There's no reason why police officers don't need a 4-year degree. I mean, we know what a degree does for us. You know, we come out, we may go in a little more black and white. As far as thinking, we come out way more gray. And we see things differently. The cops that go in, they don't even have a 2-year degree. I mean, they go in, you know, fresh out of high school. I can imagine if I was a cop out of high school. I mean, the things I've seen now compared to then, you know, and then they get in and they get hardened, and it's no good. And the training, of course, we go over the training all day long, but we're not gonna do that today. So, I appreciate all you guys coming. That's my story. As a mother, it's hard to go over this every single time. I have notes and I still can't even follow them. You know, I want to talk from my heart, not from a piece of paper. And Bodhi deserves more than that. Christopher deserves it. Qantas deserves it. And if you have a chance, if you have any spare time, I mean, Surge is great. I mean, I love working with Surge. They've helped us out a lot. And if that's not something up your alley, you can always work with us. You know, absolutely. Thank you for your time.